Welcome back to another mini review. It's the first one I've done in a while. And don't worry, I am going to finish up the Jam mini reviews, but I wanted to get this out of the way first because I've been listening to this album a lot lately and I have a fair bit to say about it. The Stranglers are, I get the sense, one of those punk bands that tend to be enjoyed a lot by people who don't necessarily actually like punk rock. If there's an odd band out amongst the first wave punk bands from '77, it's definitely these guys. But by the time they got to the album we're talking about today, they weren't even really punk rock anymore. While they still had the thundering bass and cool keyboard work from their early days, by this point the sound had evolved considerably, from aggressive punk rock into a cool synth-heavy sound that sits somewhere on the borderline between new wave and post-punk. I'd lean a little more towards calling this post-punk, but some may disagree. In any case, the sound of this album is awesome, with the cold computerized synths and the heavy bass, giving this album a dark, brooding, almost gothic feel that persists even when the album is being silly on tracks like Sha Sha Go Go or Nuclear Device. The album does have a fair bit of diversity though. A song like Dead Los Angeles sounding like it could have come straight out of the 1960s.
The plastic beaches there, on concrete beaches there, you see the leeches there, you see the leeches there, there's some marshmallow there, it's also shallow there, in Dead Los Angeles.
Whereas Duchess sounds like it could have been released by some obscure Britpop band in '95 or '96. By far, the most interesting song on the album, though, is Men in Black. An almost 5-minute exercise in repetitive drum parts, weird synth lines, and lyrics that should be really silly on paper, but come across as really creepy when they're actually being sung. I don't know whether it's the high-pitched voice that they're sung in, or whether it's the uncomfortable backing track, but something about the way that song all comes together sends a shiver down my spine every time I hear it. And the band must have agreed that it was a good song because they basically expanded the idea they put in it and used that to make their entire next album, The Gospel According to the Men in Black. And while I like pretty much the entire album, if I had to name a song that I didn't like as much, I would have to name Don't Bring Harry, because there's just not enough going on and it's a little bit too long and I just get bored with it. And I don't usually talk about bonus tracks on CD reissues, but I have to say that I mostly like these bonus tracks. The French version of Don't Bring Harry is whatever, and the backwards version of Genetics is just okay, but Bear Cage and Fools Rush Out are fantastic, with Fools Rush Out especially being a favorite of mine. That almost reminds me of what Joy Division might have sounded like had they incorporated more keyboards into their sound. All in all, I highly rate this album and would definitely recommend it to anybody who likes music from this period, although if you're a purist, maybe check out their earlier albums first.